Buckeyes, they beat their rival Michigan 27-9 in a much-needed rivalry win, pushes Ohio State to 12-0. Julian Sayin, 233 yards, 3 touchdowns, an interception. Bryce Underwood, not really effective, 63 yards through the air, 1 interception. I think he had 6 yards as a runner, due to sacks and stuff. I mean, he was a little effective moving the ball with his feet, but not really. On the other side of the ball, though, you had Bo Jackson, 22 carries, 117 yards. First 100-yard rushing game in this rivalry matchup since J.K. Dobbins did it back in 2019. Jeremiah Smith caught a touchdown, so did Carnell Tate. And on the recruiting trail, Steve, nobody has been hotter down the stretch than the Buckeyes. Multiple flips in the month of November, and you also put in a new prediction. We'll talk about some of the guys in the class, but let's get to your new prediction for Ohio State.
Yeah, I like them to ultimately flip Caden Gebhart, a local safety from Clemson, a guy that is having a fantastic senior season, over 100 tackles, 2 picks, 8 pass breakups, a local kid. Ohio State wants to add 1 more defensive back to a recruiting class that ranks number 5 nationally per the Rivals industry. And talking to sources, I think things are picking up with Caden Gebhart. Josh, if I had a Heisman vote this year, it would go to Julian Sayin. Young man is out there completing 80% of his passes, 27 touchdowns to just 4 interceptions. The Buckeyes are unblemished. Julian Sayin, give him the Heisman Trophy, in my opinion, this year. Matt Patricia obviously has a chance to win the Broyles Award for the top assistant coach in college football. I know I've stumped for Bryant Haynes at Indiana, the Hoosiers defensive coordinator, and certainly he has a great shot to win it. And Ohio State's coming to my city. They're coming to take on the second-rate Indiana Hoosiers next weekend. Indiana, Ohio State, inside Lucas Oil, in the best sports city in the world. We're going to have number 1 and number 2, Ohio State versus Indiana, with potential Heisman Trophy winners on the field, Julian Sayin and Mendoza. And the Buckeyes, another top 5 class coming in. They got to hold on to some of their key guys down the stretch, and they're looking to close 1 more defensive back. And then I think they're done here in 2026 because they've been on a little bit of a roll at the end of the season. But I think they're about done. I think Gebhart finishes it off for them. And if they can keep these receivers in the fold, perfect finish for the Buckeyes on the trail over the next 4 days.
Yeah, I want to talk about that. Currently, Buckeyes sitting with the number 5 ranked class in America as we're 4 or 5 days away from National Signing Day. You mentioned the wide receivers, kind of the crown jewel of this class, Chris Henry Jr. and Caden Dixon Wyatt, both from California Mater Dei High School. What's the latest buzz? I mean, I know we were watching Chris Henry Jr. throughout the spring a little bit into the summer, but it seemed to have solidified. Oregon, USC not going away. What are you hearing on these 2 wide receivers for Ohio State?
Well, for Chris Henry Jr., it could ultimately be what's your threshold for a true freshman wide receiver compared to the rest of the roster and what their salaries may be. I think he's been great with Ohio State. Obviously, what he loves about the Buckeyes is the track record of player development. And that's not just getting young men into the first round, but then those guys are able to take the NFL by storm. Jackson Smith-Njigba leads the NFL in receiving yards this year. And obviously the likes of Chris Olave, Garrett Wilson, Terry McLaurin, Marvin Harrison Jr. I mean, these guys are pro-ready when they step on the field for their first NFL training camp, OTA, after they get drafted. And Chris Henry Jr. recognizes that. And certainly the track record of just the team itself, offense, always going to have a good quarterback. You're always going to play in the biggest games. And I do think that the Buckeyes have come to the table correctly in the NIL department for Chris Henry Jr., but what's it going to look like over the next 96 hours for Chris Henry Jr. and final offers? And I mean, Oregon covets Chris Henry Jr. And they're still having dialogue with him. And so anything can happen is what I was told last week.
Is USC involved with Henry or just primarily Caden Dixon Wyatt?
Yeah, so sources around USC tell me just Caden Dixon Wyatt. that would surprise me if they got Chris Henry Jr.
Yeah.
But recruiting, I mean, there's always a surprise or two during the signing period, National
100%.
Signing Day. So we'll see what it is. Look, I think Chris Henry Jr. and Caden Dixon-Wyatt have been great with Ohio State. The communication with the coaching staff, they know what it is. They know what they're stepping into, and it's a place you bet on yourself. Cream rises to the top. If you're a starter at wide receiver at Ohio State, there is a very, very, very good chance you're going to go in the first round. And then you could be a guy like Terry McLaurin and not go in the first round, but just get that massive second contract because you should have went in the first round and people just didn't see it. But most of the time you go in the first round. And so they get that. They understand that. I think Caden Dixon-Wyatt loves Ohio State. I think people in his camp have given USC reason for optimism. And we know that the Trojans – are armed and dangerous and have an exciting offense. And Lincoln Riley has a track record as well. They have the number one recruiting class in the country. And from what I understand, Caden Dixon-Wyatt is one of their final remaining targets. So Ohio State, I don't know if they're out of the woods. I don't even know if it matters. Like, they could have Wiltfong and Newberg at wide receiver, man. And we would go out there and get drafted today.
In the first round.
And
I am
43.
a first-round draft pick at Ohio State.
It's kind of like that Ty Cobb. What would you hit off? What would you hit off the pitching today? I think I'd hit about 270. The great Ty Cobb thinks he'd only hit 270 off the pitching today. Well, I'm 72 years old. I think us in our early 40s, man, we get open. We make plays in Ohio State's offense. That's just how they scheme it up and how they develop. So those guys understand it. Chris Henry, Caden Dixon-Wyatt, the guys committed. You bet on yourself. Yeah. If you go to a place like Ohio State, you're not worried about who's coming in with you, behind you, in front of you. But it's a modern era of recruiting. The Ducks have an exciting offense. Oregon's only lost to one team over the last 2 years. They're 1-1 against them. They just lost the one that mattered more than the one they won. They lost to Ohio State in the Rose Bowl. And then USC, they have the number one class in the country, and there's going to be a lot of expectations on the Trojans next year to make the college football playoff and make a run.
Well, Ohio State undefeated to end the regular season. Nobody on the recruiting trail is hotter. So over the next 4 days, or as Steve likes to say, 96 hours, we'll see if Ohio State can make some noise. I think they can. Steve already has one new prediction in. We'll see what happens over the course of the next couple of days. But Ohio State fans, how are you feeling after this Michigan win? How are you feeling about recruiting? Talk to us, comment section below. All right, Steve, let's turn the page and talk a little Michigan recruiting, because the game was played in Ann Arbor. There was a ton of recruits there. One prospect that did not make it was LSU cornerback commit Havon Finney. We talked about him all last week, saying if he did make this trip, watch out for Michigan, but he does not. And that's okay, because Michigan did get a surprise visit from Jamarian Vincent, committed to Baylor. Steve, what's the latest on Vincent and Michigan's flip chances here?
Well, obviously him coming up to campus again, I think it shows that they have a tremendous shot of flipping him. And I feel like they've always felt it was trending in the right direction. They've been on the gas with Davon Benjamin, Havon Finney, but Jam Vincent is a guy that they love and covet and would love to add to this class. Michigan's a very young football team. This is another recruiting class that they want to inject into this roster. This is a team that's going to have major playoff ambition next year. They're playing a lot of teenagers, particularly on offense, but this is another really talented recruiting class, and they would love to add Jam Vincent to it. Corner remains one of the remaining needs for the Wolverines.
All right, so a lot of commits on campus. It was good to see number one running back Savion Hyder. He was there along with Brady Smeagol, Tommy Carr. Just a lot of commits back on campus, but also Tennessee commit athlete Celesi Moa. What's going on there? Does Michigan have a late flip chance with Moa?
So that visit surprised me. I didn't see it coming. Didn't know that they were still in communication. Celesi Moa, one of the best two-way players in the country, could be a dynamic wide receiver on the next level. Certainly has all the traits to be outstanding in the secondary. That's where Michigan has coveted him. Tennessee is recruiting him as a wide receiver. Anytime, look, he visited Utah 2 weekends ago. Kind of talking about this with Austin Price, our Tennessee insider. Michigan, piecing it together, Michigan may be more of a threat than the alma mater, Utah. I don't know. We'll see. This one I'm still learning and feeling this one out because I didn't even know he was coming. And then when you catch wind that he's coming, it's close to kickoff for the biggest game of the season. It's kind of hard to get your sources on the phone when all they care about is beating the Buckeyes for the 5th or 6th year in a row. Obviously, they weren't able to do that this year. So I don't have as much intel as I would like on where Michigan stands here, but obviously getting him on campus. I mean, they were one of his top 3 schools the first time around with Tennessee and Utah. The Vols beat the Utes for him, but he's been to Michigan. They love the coaching staff and love the scheme and think it's a place he could be successful. And I think NIL is very relevant in this recruitment as well. And I think when you're a top-of-board player for Michigan, they've shown that they've had the chops to get it done as well. So is this an opportunity to just come see one of the best, biggest, most tradition-rich games in college football? Or was this an opportunity to come up to Michigan and see if you can see yourself wearing a winged helmet? I'm still working on those details.
Yeah, I think 4 days before signing day, it's more than just going to see a big game, especially in this weather. You're traveling with all this holiday travel and people out on the road. It's not the easiest thing to do. So I think maybe, in my opinion, there's more to this, but we'll keep watching that. As I said, we're going to go live every day between now and signing day. So we'll probably have more updates on that coming soon. Steve, real quick, who were some of the other 2027 headliners on campus this weekend?
Well, I think it just starts with the wide receivers, Dakota Garant and Monshon Sales. Those are guys that are at the top of the board for Michigan, along with Quentin Burrell out of Chicago. I don't think they'll strike out on those 3 guys. Quentin Burrell is probably the one I'd say they have the best shot at because I think Oregon leads for Dakota Garant. And I think Alabama and Ohio State, Indiana, and some others are setting the pace for Monshon Sales, but Michigan has been in pole position for him before. The one thing we know about Michigan the last 2 cycles, if you're one of their top 10 overall targets, they hit at a high average. So we'll know more about Michigan and who they're going to prioritize from an NIL standpoint as the process continues. These guys that came to campus today, they didn't see a Michigan win, but they saw a young football team. They saw one of the best environments in college football. And this is a program that had a true freshman quarterback out there against the number 1 team in the country, against a loaded defense full of NFL standouts, against maybe the Broyles Award winner and Matt Patricia. There's a lot of reason to be excited about Michigan. And you go to our diehards message boards at the Wolverine and on the Den, and obviously they don't like losing to Ohio State, and you're pointing the fingers and who should we make a change with on staff? Like, you're playing a lot of youngins. That doesn't mean that. Look, when people wear the Michigan Black M, they know the scrutiny that comes with that. But this is a young football team that won 9 games and has a chance to win a 10th game in the bowl game. And I think that is a terrific season when you are starting a true freshman quarterback in arguably the best conference in college football.
Yeah. All right. Well, let's we're going to continue to talk Michigan recruiting between now and signing day. There's going to be some movement there, but Michigan fans, talk to us. How you feeling about the season? How you feeling about the game? And how you feeling about recruiting? Comment section.